Well, hello, folks. Top Gun here with you, and I got a good one for you today. Um, I'm gonna do this one math style because that's what you guys want to see. That's what I put in the title. Guess what? I do math, and I talk about generally important things in my other videos. I'm sorry, sometimes I put out joke titles, which apparently aren't so popular. But that's just me trying to tackle and grasp things that are going on so I can still come up with some hopium and give you guys the stuff that you want to see. So, if you don't want to see the other videos, you're going to miss out on the things that I'm telling people that I think are important. Generally, don't come on here just to say nothing. So, today, you guys want to find out about PulseX. We're going to talk about maths. Yes, we are. Because I got a little bit of an upgrade as I had made a mistake about Uniswap version 3. See, I had assumed that the math that I do, the x, y equals k of a liquidity pool that acts like a teeter-totter into infinity, I had assumed that that still existed in V3. And then the pockets of liquidity existed on the side of that, changing how much the base liquidity pool moved. This is what I had assumed, which was my mistake, because I only glanced at the math to be, yeah, I understand how the pockets on the side work. My bad. My bad for only glancing. So yeah, I learned something new about Uniswap V3, and I'll do my best to explain that in a metaphor that makes sense. And we'll do a little bit of a deep dive, and yes, the crystal ball. We'll even get over to that. So we're going to talk about some about V3 and get that out of the way so that we can get into the PulseX stuff because hey, I like PulseX better. At least to start. I mean, I know that there's utility to Uniswap V3, but I also know that there is whale games can be positive and they can be negative. And this takes a lot more understanding, I think, to get into. This gets a lot more complicated. But a sad truth is Uniswap version 3 is going to exist on Pulse Chain. It's just not going to be supported by Uniswap version 3. Somebody can make a front end and point it to Uniswap version 3. It will likely be done. And even without a front end, arbitrage can still go in and use it. There are manual ways to engage the program without using a front end that's shared in public. Like you can engage your own scripting if you know what you're doing and you're a coder. So there are some coders that will take advantage of this system. So hopefully not many without actually open easy access. That does cut down the amount of people with the capabilities significantly and slow them down a little bit. And eventually Uniswap version 3 code in April, I believe, their copyright will expire if they do not renew it. They do have an option to renew their intellectual property if they decided they wanted to pursue coming over and finally joining Pulse. But that means they'd have to buy their way in afterwards because a lot of the liquidity will be cleaned out. So with Uniswap version 3, it functions. So yeah, we'll talk about how that functions, and then we'll get back into why I prefer V2, I guess. So info.uniswap.org. Bam. Brings you to this. I figure I should actually show you how I got here. And it takes a moment to load apparently for me. But it comes up with a bunch of data already. We're going to do a search here, and we're going to take hex, for example. Now, one lesson I learned that's very important is we're going to look at the hex. There, now it loaded. Thank you. That was a little slow. All right, again. Here's my boxes. Come on. Wow. All right. So, hex USDC. It stops jumping around. Lesson 1. When forming a stable coin pool on Uniswap version 3, when you start and apply liquidity, always put the stable coin first, then the asset coin that's going to fluctuate, and that will cause this to read in the correct direction when you're looking at the liquidity function. We'll get to that in a moment. But if you put it this way, it goes in reverse and there's no toggle button because the devs don't care. They don't want to fix it. Hopefully, if Richard Hart ever does get this code and adds it and does a fork, he'll add a toggle button because people, or add instructions that says clearly, put your stable coin first, schmuck. So, or dum-dum, that's what he likes to say, dum-dum. So, total tokens locked. Now, if I actually ran that through my normal liquidity pool math, I would end up with something very different than what's going on. And I thought the total tokens locked, I really misunderstood that. So when we look at the liquidity pool, it's broken into price ranges from side to side. So you would assume that it gets higher in price this way, but that's what I mean about the token going the wrong way. So we go that way with price. Okay, that's confusing right off the bat. Thanks, guys. But the point is these buy walls. So basically the height of a block shows you how much currency or token is in that price range for sale, as opposed to a scaling infinity pool. So as you buy through this hex and go up, you can run out of hex. Like suddenly there can be none for sale past a certain price range. Like, wait, what? And you can sell your way out of tokens. Wait, what? Yeah, it doesn't stretch into infinity. These are interesting buy walls. And basically, as you move the red bar over to this side, you're changing hex into USDC. And as you move the red bar down in price, you're changing your hex into your USD back into hex. So the interesting thing is whales can come along and drop a bunch of assets above that we have to buy through. And as we go through, they can pull out liquidity. So if it sells back down, there isn't the same money available. Now, I know some people look at this as a good way to reinforce price because it discourages people from wanting to sell. But that feels like a bit of a game. Like buying the asset, I'd like to actually understand that the money that's available for me as an investor to access on the way out, and like to assume that it has a little more stability for me to be able to just quickly check a K number to gauge the size of it, as opposed to go in and have to scale. Oh, well, there's plenty of liquidity above me or plenty of liquidity below me, but not the other direction. And it stops at this range and it gets thicker again at this range. Like, oh my God. Now, this can be used by a whale to reinforce price positively for an asset they appreciate, but it can also be used by malicious actors to throw up the price. Now, this is kind of like a sniper tool with providing liquidity. So I mean, it has its uses. There are people that are going to want to use this, and this is not a set it and forget it kind of style of liquidity. This is constantly in there and affecting plans, like playing a chess game almost with it. Which, I mean, I suppose all the market making is in the end. But it's just, to me, feels kind of counterintuitive. Like, you can't calculate slippage going into this the same way. You got to realize, okay, well, it's this price. I want to buy this much. Well, how much is for sale? How quickly will you pop these and suddenly ramp up? Or how slowly will you eat through these? Like, what will your effective price be? I mean, in collecting fees and wanting to stabilize price, this is a whole another way of doing it. So basically, in essence, what does this do? These ranges. Well, let's have a look at some math. No, not the Bitcoin math. We're going to make a new spreadsheet here. And the way I'm thinking of this right now, and I was going to put a up and down ladder, I don't know, but because Uniswap has it side to side, maybe I should go side to side. But the idea that I'm having to explain this would be, I suppose, all right, let's just do a price range here. I'm just trying to think. All right, 10.0, we'll call that cents. I guess, yeah, 0.0 doesn't make much sense. But what we will do is this equals the cell above minus 0.01 fractions. There we go. All right, maybe that's, yeah, I want to do this with a smaller range for math, make this easier to understand. Make that 0.01. There we go. So this makes a little more sense as a bunch of price ranges. All right, so we'll say this is, yeah, we can work with this. Drop it down, make it a 2-cent range. All right, between 8 and 10 cents. So basically, the math with this is that you set ranges, like, all right, in hex, well, once it gets to 9 cents and say all the way up to 9.5 cents, I want to start selling off my hex. Now I'd have to look at Uniswap precisely and see if you set a target amount of USDC and then it scales it for you. But let's assume I'm going to use an odd number. Somebody would probably use an even number, like, oh, once it's up to 1,000 USDC or whatever, the way they scale it. But let's assume, all right, that they put in just 10 coins, all right, but they're scaling it up to 9.5 or 9.4. So as soon as you buy, you basically kind of scale it this way. If this would make any sense, all of a sudden you'd have to collect 18 and then 18.2. Oops. People are like, wait, what are you doing with the math here? What are you doing with the math here? Well, I'm splitting it up. So basically, as you go up the price points, you see that there are less tokens available until you're completely sold out at the price points. And during that, if you're selling 2 tokens per price point, then this must equal this times 2. And that means that math's wrong. There we go. All right. So that means that the total sum of tokens that were sold out was 10. But at these price points, how many cents were actually collected? We'd run an auto sum. So this range, there we go. So 92 cents. 10 coins for 92 cents, selling them up to 9.5. So I mean, you'd set a price range and a number of tokens. It would figure out the scale of the change of delta, how to slide these tokens back and forth, so that as you move up the price range, it scales over. But as you move down, it scales back. Now, while it's traveling through these ranges, pockets, those towers that you saw on the other side, while it's going through these, they collect fees, percentages of the transactions. So the price can go from 9.1 to 9.4, down to 9.2, up to 9.4, down to 9.1, up to 9.3, down to 9.2. And each time volume's moving through, they're making fees. But the moment it goes up out of the range, it pops. Basically, they're no longer being used for liquidity. They're completely emptied out on one side. The order, it's kind of like a limit order with range. And so the limit order with range is now completely filled. Well, you're out. So liquidity is provided mostly with range limit orders. if that's a good way to understand it. Instead of setting a limit order where it executes specifically at one price, you set the limit order so it executes to a range of price, going in one direction or the other. Now, I don't know if this closes when it goes above, like if we come back down into this price and no one has taken this out, is this money still available to sell back into tokens? It may be. That's where I don't fully understand if this closes or locks. I don't have any test tokens. I don't have enough to go open liquidity on V3 and test this to actually see how it functions. But it's essentially a limit order with range. And so multiples of these limit orders are set. But if you have no limit orders below the price, like this would be a perfect way where people get scammed coming into a token. Like, come buy our token. There's plenty for sale on Uniswap. But as they go through these ranges and the limit order is full, then they pull their limit order. These tokens aren't available. Again, these fractions of USDC cents aren't available to sell back into. So they're closing the door behind people as they go in, all excited, like, look, price is going up, look, price is going up, yay, and all their money is being taken. And then, well, pulling the remaining liquidity, cut and run, rugged, and nothing to sell back into. So now usually this is why I like Uniswap V2, is it at least keeps a price functioning and keeps things trading into infinity, which I may not have clearly enough stated when I do my math. But when you're dividing and multiplying size, no, I have explained that. Yes, I have explained that you can approach zero, but you can never hit it. I have explained that plenty of times. But I might not iterate it or stress it very much. But this is where starting Pulse Chain with PulseX based on Uniswap V2. So these type of whale games aren't there. There's a steady amount of liquidity. You can look at the value lock and see, okay, there's that much value available for withdrawal. Okay, and now, I have enough tokens to double the amount of tokens on the one side. That means I'll be able to take half the money that's on the other. And I can crash the price by 75% doing it. Mwahaha! Don't be a jerk like that. There are still whale games with V2, but I like them better. I feel like they're less shady, and LPs could, well, I don't know if they can be locked on V2, but they're encouraged to be maintained by incentives tokens, by a DAO. So this is enough about V3. Let's get into talking about PulseX. So yeah, I suppose I'll need to goodbye. Yeah, let's go over to the PulseX interface. Oh, look at that. Look at that. So the farms. So first off, liquidity. Oh my, me oh my. First off, basically the basic function with Pulse, you can exchange tokens. Connect a dummy wallet, connect your real wallet, whatever you're doing. This is testnet, so I have a dummy wallet connected. But you can swap one token for another. This shows I have some test tokens in my dummy wallet. All right, awesome, standard. But coolio, limit orders. Now, these are not ranges like Uniswap V3. This is where Uniswap V3 is kind of like a shotgun scatter where you can collect fees by providing that range of liquidity. This is like a sniper kind of cushion where, all right, limit orders kind of slow down and execute and will change ranges of liquidity, but they're not earning fees the same way. It's just a quick in and out sell position so you can set it and forget it. Like, I have a target. When it hits this much, I need to sell maybe 100 tokens when it's at $100 so I can pay for something. That's when I'm going to go and get new schooling and programming, or I'm going to go to the dentist, or whatever I have planned. So set a limit order, set it and forget it. This is revolutionary. As you can see, I've set a limit order in here. I did a video on this already. It hasn't executed, obviously. Yeah, I set a limit order, and it does have a maximum amount of time though, so you can set it, forget it, but you do have to come back. Expires in 1 month. Oh wow! So you can set it, and apparently I chose custom. And then providing liquidity. So providing liquidity pairs. I have provided some liquidity pairs. Your liquidity. Look at that. Got at least one PULSEX and Pulse right here. Don't see a pool you joined. Find other LP tokens. Well, I thought I'd join more than one because, interestingly enough, like you can join an LP, which allows you to collect fees in the trading. So as one side sells, you collect fees, and then as it sells back, you collect others. So providing liquidity during times of price stability but high volume is the optimal time to do it. When price isn't going to go up or go down far, when you're not going to suffer a lot of impermanent loss, and you're going to have roughly the same amount of tokens on both sides that you put in, that you're going to take out, except you're also going to have the fee tokens collected, increasing your bags. That's the optimal liquidity providing time. Now, when liquidity is skewing huge in one direction, it can be very easy to get wrecked through impermanent loss. So, for example, people look at impermanent loss different ways, but say you provide liquidity for a new coin and it turns out to be crap, and people sell out on that liquidity, and basically, boom, 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 you get a whole bunch of crap tokens. So you put in $100 of USDC and $100 of crap tokens, but everyone takes your 10 USDC and or 100 USDC, so all you have is 10 USDC left. Well, that means all those massive amounts of tokens now are also only worth $10. So essentially, you start with 200 and have $20 worth of assets because the coin collapsed under your feet and you didn't pull out your liquidity. That's wrecked. That's huge amounts of impermanent loss if that coin's never coming back. Also, another way people will look at it, well, Bitcoin, I'm going to provide liquidity for it. I'm going to put in 10 coins and $10 because it's a dollar coin at this time. And then, boom, oh my God, it just sells out so nuts that I have like a fraction of a coin, and I have like, $600,000 in my liquidity. Man, I'm so smart. Well, and that's when it was at its height. So sorry, let me draw that back down. So that would be closer to $180,000. We're going to use as an example. Aren't I so smart? Oh wait, are they going to? No, they're not. Oh God, that's so wrong. Sorry. Shouldn't always do liquidity pool math in your head. I can show this on Excel, but the point is, the impermanent loss, all of a sudden, the Bitcoin you would have had, because I have an impermanent loss calculator, I put it out there on how to pulse. I talk about this sometimes, like, oh yes, there's that page, I dropped the link in my videos, and then some of the math I use to make my liquidity calculator for the crystal balls is in here, and this describes impermanent loss a lot better and lets you scale it. So a token that goes up in price hugely, that you have much less of now, even though you sold out on the way up, you make a bit of money, but the tokens themselves that you used to have would have been worth way more. It's another way to look at impermanent loss. But these impermanent losses only set in once you sell your tokens. Unless, the project's never coming back down. The price never falls back down, then it's kind of permanent whether you sell or not. Like, it depends on how you want to look at this and what your time horizons are. But this is the idea of impermanent loss. I like to, however, also talk about impermanent gains in these whale games that are available on PULSEX for providing liquidity. So, other times that might be good to provide liquidity. See, let's say I really enjoy this asset and I want people to get involved. So I'm like, go ahead, take my money. So I provide liquidity, $10,000 of liquidity and $10,000 of asset. Have at it. All right. So a little bit of airdrop, people sell out. I'm down 5,000. Okay, but I'm up a crap ton of tokens. All right. Wow. Well, I've had enough of this, because for some reason as founder I didn't keep any tokens other than the liquidity providing, but now I'm up a crap ton from all the ones I handed out. So you know what, now I'm going to take some. I'm going to remove half the liquidity, and suddenly, all right, there's less available for people to draw against. That encourages them not to want to sell, but there still is some for people to withdraw against, but the price is much more volatile now, and then people can buy and push the price up ever so much easier. And they can push it up, and they can push it up, and they can push it up. And then when I think that the price is about as high as it's going to go and it's going to start come crashing back down, you know what would be really kind of me at that point is to provide more liquidity, to put tokens and USDC into this project again. So now there's a cushion of actual more money for people to withdraw since they think it's at the top, since they want to go away. And I'm eating more tokens, so both sides of my liquidity pool are dropping in value. That should be in permanent loss, but I believe in this token. I know this token is going to go back up in price. I know that it's going to rebound. I know that it's going to keep going. So since I have this confidence, then when all the selling seems to slow down, we're near a bottom, wouldn't it be a great time to pull my liquidity? And then again, I am ramped up on so many more tokens because I've technically been DCAing out of my position instead of selling on my investors' heads. I've been upping the liquidity and giving them even more available to withdraw from, stabilizing the price to slow down its drop, and collecting tokens that are actually going to appreciate in value later on. So then at that bottom, wouldn't I be smart to pull liquidity again? And plus I get all the fees and transactions along the way. And if I'm wrong, oh no, I start DCAing out as price goes up. Oops, instead of DCAing in. Well, that gives me some time to turn around and correct my mistakes without losing a whole bunch of tokens, and maybe allow price to go up faster and easier again. These are the games that I like about PulseX, because those are easy to reinforce in a very early environment. Because as Katie points out, Uniswap V3 is such a versatile tool that it could almost be dangerous during the Wild West games that are going to happen pre-bridge and in the early months of Pulse Chain, as everything finds its actual price stability, as the market agrees on its prices finally. It's going to take a bit of time. And I really like this liquidity system a lot better. It's a pretty standard, easy to handle liquidity system that's good to start out on, that's very stable. Now, I'm not saying that you should provide liquidity. I'm not even sure if I'm going to provide liquidity. Well, I know I am, but in certain assets as a matter of belief, as a matter of statement, because sometimes I'm not completely convinced on whether or not this is the best financial decision for me, but I believe that it's a reinforcing best action for the network. And what's good for the network in the long run is good for me. That's my investing strategy. That's why I invested in the protocol surrounding the network and PulseX, because PulseX is going to melt faces. So I provided liquidity, and I believe I provided more than one pair. But when I provide liquidity, I get liquidity LP. And what can I do with my LP? Well, I can check farms. This is where the DAO comes in, because the DAO will vote for what farms are incentivized. And look, I'm actively farming USDC Pulse and PulseX. And can I add to this? Stake here? Max? Oh, it looks like I can, because I have that LP. I haven't added to it, so let's go ahead. Let's sign over the gas and let's add her in. Let's see how the interface. Transaction submitted. View on Pulse Scan. Hope that's done indexing by now. I'm not even gonna look at that. So, alright. Staked. Wonderful. So I go back to liquidity. Ah, look, no liquidity found, because it's not just loose liquidity LP now. It's over here getting farmed. So the farms, not everything that is staked where you're earning fees is going to be able to be farmed for incentive token. So farming for fees on your LP, you can provide liquidity for any asset you want. But the DAO, the incentive token, is only going to vote in and incentivize certain pools. This is another way to encourage whales to provide liquidity in ways that are beneficial to the system instead of exploitative. So right now, incentive Pulse X, incentive Pulse, Party Pulse, and USDC Pulse, and Pulse X Pulse. That's it. That's everything. So I could harvest if I want. Oh, I automatically harvested when I added more. Interesting. So I should have some incentive token in my test wallet now. I have this unharvested amount here, but let's go ahead and remove stake. Max. Confirm. The interface is quite interestingly easy. So you can, if you want incentive tokens, you have to provide liquidity for a pool that's being incentivized. It's another way to make up for impermanent loss, is to go in here and to stake for incentive tokens. Boom. Now that's removed from there. Let's go back to liquidity. Oh, look, my liquidity pair is still right here. Still with such a small share of the pool. It's kind of a joke, right? I've actually think I've gotten more Pulse X out of this pool, because I'm pretty sure I put in more Pulse with it originally. Oh, I love that, because the buy and burn, that's so funny. I should take it out, except it's test tokens. That's what I mean about the impermanent loss. My LP is worth less. Yeah, hardy har har. Those are the tokens I want. Give them to me. I win. So for me, being a mathematician, being able to do ratios and look at things and know what I want to get makes my decisions easy for what I'm going to provide liquidity for. I provide the liquidity calculator to try and understand impermanent loss. So, I mean, you can use it. I've got to actually still upgrade it so it includes the incentive token and includes volume, so you can track fees that are actually made on the pool. But this is the essential goodness to how you can go in and provide it, but it's not a smart idea for everyone to go to. Me, I'm going in to provide hex and pulsex and hex, phex, and ehex from POS ETH, since I have to be specific now. Actually, no. No. For now, those are the ones that I really believe in, but the hex, PulseX, is so that some of the value that PulseX makes through its revenues and buy and burn can be transferred to hex through arbitrage. Beautiful. And that means that hex always has a little bit of a value pump going into it. So I realize I will never pull that liquidity back out because I want that pump to be there. I'm sacrificing the tokens, to making sure that thing functions. And then hex, phex to ehex, well, I believe in price parity between those two. And so I believe that should be a fee generating pool after it gets some stability. And because I want that stability to be found, I'll provide early at whatever ratio and just watch it go, because I'll be trading one hex for another hex. So it's a way for me to get my mind around impermanent loss and be like, yeah, maybe it's not so bad. But it will be if the ratio is bad enough to begin with. It's the way multiplication and division works. So because of that way, that allows me to scale, well, if a buy happens and liquidity slippage is like this, and that's how a liquidity pool gets affected, then this is the end result. Well, then I can run that all over again. So I can segment it day by day or week by week or month by month or year by year to generate an image of what buy pressure would look like. But how could I have any idea what the buy pressure would be like? How much demand there'll be? Well, there's some theories about using Metcalfe's law or adoption and this and that. So I put together some of my own theories about how we can look at what kind of price action we might see. And so my base theories is I look at the minimum capability and then understand that anything that happens will look even better than this. So how do I do that? I do that, not with a pool B calculator or with that. Oops, I need to open a file. All right, open. There we go. This is what I need to open. My warning, not financial advice. So, this crystal ball, my giant math sheet, is basically just a giant liquidity rollover model. And how do I do that? I do that in a few ways. I look at several variables and combine them into the what if game back here so that I can track all the little steps that are taken. So adoption rate, I just added that. So before it was 100% kind of thing. And I would start off with like, 10% to figure out bullishness. And when I originally started, the LP size was this. And also, I did not have any amount traded off. Like, this was my original settings for PULSEX. And I was like, oh, wicked. $100 in 1 year could become this much. That's insane. But I have this scaling up, basically, right now. So even through this first year, having it at 10%, there's still a scale that wasn't originally in this. And it goes from 15,000 users to 150,000 users at the end of the year. And it looks at Uniswap's business data based on what they do for 1.5 million users. So this is 1/10 of their users at the end of the year. Well, PulseX had that many sacrificers. It's safe to say it'll begin with that many and might within a year compete with PulseX. We'll buy my model with its current S-curve adoption. All right, that starts us off at 100% as its setting of Uniswap to get to 100% of Uniswap's business in 1 year. To adopt all of its users because it's the most liquid place, because the fees are the cheapest, because people can trade all their same assets, because they want to come play there. Maybe we can get to that kind of action. That seems reasonable. Maybe that's too much. So maybe we want to set that to 50%. Get to half of them by the end of the year and start with half of our sacrifices to actually be around and be like, okay, this is what's going on. Great. With that, wow, $100 could be how much with a buy and burn? That's insane if the liquidity was that small. However, testnet went with a drunken sailor 250 times that liquidity. And wow, 250 times that liquidity? $100 still does a 30x in a year with the buy and burn only? That is insane. Wow, that's kind of impressively insane, just a little bit, that it can still do a 30x at 50% of Uniswap. But like I would run it further down at 10% and see, okay, a 20x. Well, gee, it pretty much starts with a 19x right away, so that makes it a lot less impressive because I'm assuming it starts with a high market value. That means we're really not seeing much because it should basically start at a 20x. You can see the estimated starting price is a 20x from SAC is what I use. So I build a 20x into this thing. So when I set 50%, we get to 30. Well, that's really only a 50x or a 0.5x, a 50% increase over the year from the start. Like right off the bat, that $100 investment on this would be $1,900. And maybe I should show that a little clearer. But that's throughout the year, it having that much of a start. Now I can change that price down, but with the buy and burn, it doesn't really care much. It adjusts that pretty quickly. This was me when I was a little more bullish back in February. I would possibly want to change that price to 0.001. I feel like a 10x from the sacrifice value is fair, recognizing it might be possible and doable. We'll see. But yeah, this doesn't really seem that bullish with that much liquidity in there. until I start to realize adoption, because it's not going to just tap out all of a sudden at year one and stop there. There's going to be a little bit of growth. So even if the next year there was only 10% more people, so we only got up to 907,000, and then the third year 998,000. Okay, so with that adoption scaling built in, I also have it ramped backwards through the math. That's why that number got a little smaller here. The 5 year is where we can see, okay, 22,000. All right. But, this is insane amounts of liquidity. No one's going to provide this amount of liquidity. So I scale this back into the middle. The square root, 25 is 5. So I'm like 50, 1/5. We'll just use 1/5 of 250. 50 times what I assumed, because lots of people want to get in and make money. Whoa, that starts to change the X's when the liquidity is small. Maybe people will pay my liquidity game and have low liquidity to see price go up and then reinforce it when they think it'll go down. Now, another thing that might affect is people are like, dude, at least 10% or 20% of the people that got in, over 17 of those trillion of those tokens, 20% of them, that's right, 3.44 trillion, are going to get sold in the first month because people want Pulse. Oh wow, that crushes the X's since launch, like from the $100. Yeah, that sends price screaming back the other direction. Wow. But then over the year, I have grass built into this thing. That's what that first month sell-off does, and this is what the buy and burn does, and nobody in the market is buying any. If they buy some, price will go up faster. Less will get burned. That's how that works. So wait, that's a 20% sell-off of all the tokens. There's only 80 left in the entire system. When price wants to make a full recovery by month 11 here, it looks like. Well, what if we had suddenly another 20% of the entire sacrifice set won out? So, yeah, that's 3 billion. That should be the trillion. Yeah, alright, so they won out, and they punched back into it. Wham! Price is back down again. Mwah ha 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 ha. Well, this is the price over first 5 years. Don't pay attention to the 1 in 9. My formatting's still off on the graph. So, wait. It still gets up to 25 cents a token in the 5 years, and 40% of it's been ditched. So yeah, the first year, I only saw 60% gains from my sacrifice because 40% of the tokens were ditched. That's all the damage that could get done. But dude, what if in year 2, another 20% of the tokens get ditched? 60% of the supply hit the market. That must surely hurt. Oh, well, yeah, that dropped us to 22 cents over to year 5. I mean, right away, that affects the price down, so we don't even quite get to a cent. We've only had 84 X's at year 2. And then we start piling into the hundreds. But, dude, what if we step that up? And we actually sell off 80% of the entire token supply. Oh, I forgot a 0. My bad. Such big numbers. Oh, do I have to actually make that bigger? You're going to whine like that, Excel? Fine. Well, then we've only seen 100 X's in 3 years, with 80% of the token supply already sold, and not a single person from the market has bought any. So our burn amounts also apparently need to up these. I don't know why my token counts aren't working. I should have a total burn. Well, yeah, 5 trillion burn there. Another 7 trillion burn there. I don't know. Are the numbers that small? Or do I have that? Oh, equaling the wrong thing? I don't know. I'll have to fix that later. Oopsie doodle. Sometimes I still have glitches in my software. So 80% though. It's all in the display data. It'll be in the what if game. If you guys want to go over there and have a look at the what if game. See? Alright. PULSEX burnt. Total PULSEX burnt. So yeah, I'll just have to fix the running totals of the token allocation. But stop it, Windows. So yeah, we're at 20%. So let's look at that. And we still get to 14 cents by the end of 5 years with 10% adoption. So fine, guys. This is adoption using the platform so it buys the tokens, not with people buying PulseX. No market buy pressure, only market sell pressure because people are greedy and want price points. So looking at it approaching, 5 cents, let's say we get another, we'll drop this down, all right, to 10%. We'll drop it down to 10%. Make it a little more gentle. See what they do. Bam. Okay. That keeps it to 150 X's by year 4. And 90% of the supply has been burnt off of the market, gone to never, ever, ever be seen again. And why don't we go to 99% of the entire supply? That's outside the OA. And in 5 years, the buy and burn with only 10% adoption year over year and 50% use of Uniswap's users at the end of year 1 just chewed through that with nobody buying in the market. Now, when people see green candles, don't they like to chase price? I think they like to chase price. Even though this is the price action that would look like if it was just front, back and forth with the buy and burn and the market selling off like a numpty. But the point is, with these sell-offs, no matter what, the price will go back up one day. So holding these and staking them is far better, and hoping for a loan protocol like liquid loans to get adopted from Pulse to PulseX is what you want, because these things, the buy and burn is automatic, a whale in the system that is always going to do this price action. So you guys want me to talk about what I think the price will do? Well, people are going to see the price and they're going to want to buy it and get in, which is going to make the price go up faster. So 267 X's in 5 years is insanely conservative. And at this point, I believe that 10% adoption year over year is so not even funny. What do I mean about that? Well, the internet adopted at 76% year over year. Like, if it's a good DEX and people want to use it, could we get 25% adoption year over year? So 1 million, 1.1 million at the end of the 6th year. We'll finally take 3 years to catch up to Uniswap and then start passing them. What does that do to the 5-year forecast? Oh my god, 99% of the tokens sold off. Nobody outside the system bought it, other than the automatic whale buyer that would be able to exert enough buy pressure that it put the price theoretically up 22,000 X's. And you want to know how much buy pressure that actually is. We can go to the what if game and go to the 5th year and have a look at what's in the liquidity pool, value locked with this math. So what I have value locked at the end of the 5th year with the token supply looks to be like $1.2 billion of accumulated buy pressure from the whale bot after a 99% sell off because people have been taking, wow, that was a $600 million sell, a $400 million sell off worth of value extracted from the investor pool, $300 million. Well, gee, that right there, the last few sell offs extracted more value than was put in the sacrifice directly from the liquidity pool, from the buy and burns. As in, this is not a zero sum game. The revenue that is made from this is available for investor withdrawal for as long as this thing runs. Oh, but like, how do we know that functional run? Because it's right over here. Burn. You can hook up your wallet, burn yourself, and to show it works, so I don't get frustrated. Thank you for the tip. Pulse Deutsch sucks for this example. Dun dun dun. We go in. We accept the gas for the transaction and submitted. I just got paid for, boom, upping the price on PulseX. I got just a teeny little cut of that buy and burn. No, I don't have that teeny little cut built into my model. I probably should, but I also don't have Metcalfe's law built into my model, which explains that I'm still underestimating the value and effect that this is going to have. Now, there are people that are a lot more bullish that think 100% of their business is very reasonable to achieve. And there are some people that maybe even think that, okay, that maybe think that that 50% increase year over year. So to jump up and up and up and up and up. Now, I do have this on an S curve, so it happens a little faster than that percentage. And this is where I have a little bit of fun, is my S curve adoption. So I do scale the adoption strangely, so it's not exactly 10% year over year. It's an average of that year over year across 10 years. And then I have most of the action happen early in the 5 years. So you can actually see what I'm down here. Multiply the second year like it's had 2 years of growth, 3 years of growth, 5 years of growth, 8 years of growth, then 9 years of growth, then 9.5, then 9.75, until we balance back out at 10. I have my own simulated S curve into this, which does have some effect on this idea for math. So I'm looking at a 10-year average of adoption with an S curve in the beginning year and through the middle. And over the 20 years, if you guys can handle that, you guys don't believe it'll run that fast or be popular that long. But that's how Bitcoin gets to $7 million. With a guaranteed buyer in the system that doesn't need to sell for electricity. So in Bitcoin, the miners will forever sell on your head to pay their electric bill. In PulseX, they will forever buy on your head because they like you. They don't need to sell off for the electricity expense. So, yeah. I'm still running this on conservative. There's people that think, oh, the internet adapted us. This breaks the model. You're not allowed to go past 75% year over year because, so there's some people that think 76% year over year. Okay, there's a small problem with that for adoption. And we're going to get down here and show you that small problem with adoption. That's 121 billion people. That's right, by 15 years. That's complete world dominance. I don't know that a DEX will have complete world dominance ever. I'm not insane. So that setting's not even allowed on here. Really recommended to just stop at 50. Because when does that get to world domination? Ooh, that's there are 8 billion people in the world. That's 4 billion people by 17th year, and slow down because it's at the top of its S curve. That feels like something that almost could be achievable. I don't know, but maybe a little sane, a little over bullish, but I'm not even looking over there at those price models, and I'm not applying Metcalfe's law for the increased value of these increased users. I am just averaging like, oh, well, if 1.5 million spent this, then 3 million, double what 1.5 spent. No, I didn't apply Metcalfe's law to the increase in value, so even more money would be spent. I constantly kneecap my own math to be as conservative as possible. And that's where I find it so funny that you guys like moon math. Like, no, guys, I am doing everything I can to slow this thing down. Like, assuming 50 times the liquidity pool size that Hex had. Like, assuming that we're going to have a 20% sell off in the first. Like, assuming that adoption is going to be so slow. Like, assuming that we're not going to actually beat Uniswap. And still, with assuming this is still 99% sell pressure in here. You guys want to see something even cool? Well, let's assume that people are going to want to take at these later price points. And that, yeah, we have this first sell-off. But what if we take 20% of this insanity away? Let's reduce this, maybe. Okay, so not as big a sell-off, not as crazy, still kind of hurts, still way too much. Let's take that out entirely, because people over the first year are getting excited and seeing price come back up so quickly. Well, this is where I don't have this set up to simulate buy pressure over here, but over here in the what if game, I can manually inject some buy pressure. So let's say that within that we actually see buy pressure hit. Okay. Well, that actually comes from a spot on my crystal balls. Oh my, I do have them, but I have them disabled so they don't get confused. Okay. Alright, so what if you actually saw buyer pressure of, an additional 20 million? Let's just make the font red, sure. Let's try it. Boom. 20 million. Bam, onto the price. Isn't that cool? I forgot I had that enabled. Yes, there is ways to simulate market buy pressure. And then people get really excited. So they buy another $20 million worth. Sorry guys. That red too. Oh, that was a little excessive. One extra zero. $200 million worth. But still, another $20 million worth of buy pressure added to the system. Balancing out. And then, okay. So by the second year, we still have this massive sell-off at the 1 cent range because everyone's so excited. But by the third year, we no longer have the token sell-off. Instead, we see purchasing happening again. And maybe now we can start looking at, throughout the entire year, that year, $500 million of buy pressure. Is that really, really excessive? Maybe we should just make it $50 million. Do you guys want to go to 100 million? Let's make it $100 million. Boom. A buy pressure added to this. All right. But when these larger token sales come, they still kick us, it looks like, kick us while we're down. Yeah. Do I still have that set up? Let me go check to year 3. I may not have all toys connected in those later year outside the months. I did all that work in the months long ago and then never actually simulated it for you guys because testnet data sucked. It was what it was. It's where like I stopped building some things because I'm like, oh, this isn't fun anymore. Yeah, look at that. It did not equal. Yeah, that needed to equal. That's why nothing happened there. What is this? This is, yeah. All right. So 3, I need to hit equals, and then I need to come over here and click on that one. Enter. There we go. Now she loads. Functionality. Hoorah. Sorry for not programming that sooner. But as you can see, realistically, with the sell-off in year 4, the way it affects price, you see that less tokens are burnt because people have been participating in the market. But all in all, that buy and burn is very, very powerful. But how much more money? That's buy pressure. My God, like that's additional buy pressure to PulseX. I only put $140 million in 5 years of buy pressure into this thing, on top of all the sell pressure in and out, and it stops some of the tokens from getting scooped. More participation for longer, but all in all, that buy and burn is just, see, when we look at certain things, like we go over and we look at Bitcoin and we look at its price. Let's get a good look at Bitcoin here and look at the daily, flatten it down, and talk that basically as we're looking at this, what happens at these price points? We had a crash, and then the market kind of stops, the selling takes away for a little bit, and basically it's sitting here asking, any buyers? Any buyers? Any buyers? Well, buyers showed up, but we need more buyers. Any buyers? Any buyers? No buyers show up. The sellers show back up, and she drops. But now, if you start dropping because of a massive sell-off, and then it sits here and goes, any buyers? Any buyers? Oh, what was that button we can keep clicking? Burn, burn. Yes, there's a buyer every day. People get paid to buy. So, any buyers? Any buyers? Yes, 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 yes. It goes back up. And with green candles, people want to buy, and that makes them go up faster. Then people will want to cash out. They'll come down for corrections, and then crypto gets scared that no one will ever buy again. Is there any buyers? Is there any buyers? Is there any buyers? Well, yes, 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 there is. That's why the price action is going to look so different on PulseX. Now, sometimes the sell pressure will obviously overwhelm the buy pressure ability of the whale, and may still overwhelm the buy pressure of the whale and the general public. So you will see the price start coming down. But think the Tumblewumba song. I get knocked down, but I get up again, because you're never going to keep me down. I just showed you literally 99% circulating token sell-off. Woo-hoo-hoo, woo-hoo-hoo. Yeah, I suck. I shouldn't sing. I sound like a cat in a blender. If YouTube pulls my channel for copyright on that one, I'm going to sue. I clearly cannot sing. So anyway, we really have kind of, I hopefully touched on the power of the buy and burn mechanic. This is why it is so amazing to have buy and burn. Just burn by itself is almost completely pointless. But buy and burn from a revenue protocol that's actually providing a service, a business, that's important for crypto. Sustainability of building a new financial instrument or system. I'm very excited about this stuff. So this is the fun I showed you now, since I have the adoption model built in and everything. Yeah, I simulated just a little bit of market buy pressure to show you it can be done. But that's not what this model is about. This model is about showing that with nobody else buying it up, which will take away the amount that can be burnt and make price go up even faster, even without that magic ability, uh, and massive sell-offs, like insane sell-offs. I'm pretty sure the market will absorb some of these sell-offs, and the buy and burn will just roll up a lot higher. You won't see these scary breaks and breaks, but even if there was a massive sell-off all in one day, 10% of the token supply in year 4, because people were just like, I want out. They could scoop up a ton of money, and it would make this dive down at step 8. But the buy and burn, even if everyone was too scared to buy any for a whole year, would just crank her right back up to 20 cents from not even 1/100 of a cent. It looks like wow. Looks like if she takes a dip, but she doesn't take that much of a dip. It's impressive. It's impressive. Or she does. Actually, the what if game shows a little more accurately how I process this data. So I have that huge sell-off, right? So I have the end liquidity pool, which has to become the beginning liquidity pool here. And then I have the buy and burn execute. But this function, I drop it in between, copying the pool from here to here, which is why we add these numbers of sold and the K value stays constant. Hurrah. The K value on the purchase is just centered around the slippage of what's going on there. That's not relevant to the K value of the actual liquidity pool, so ignore the orange. The orange is all the buy and burn running. The green is your starting liquidity. The white is your ending liquidity. So in between, I've had these functions sitting here the whole time. Dumbo, you could have flown the whole time. And yeah, I really haven't shown you guys just how effective the buy and burn is. It can eat 100% of the circulating supply outside of the OA in 5 years. And then the OA would have to feel sorry for people and actually finally put his tokens on the market to give people a chance to get back in, really, because everyone was so dumb and sold all their tokens. So I don't think everyone is going to be so dumb as to sell all their tokens for this reason. And I don't go heavy into the PULSEX price prediction because I don't need to. It's not something I'm going to sell. I am going to be over here and going to farming ideas and going to pool. And there are no pools available here. But ideally, tokens that have launched, like Pulse Doge or whatever, that gave away free claims to Hexagon stakes, or Hedron that lets you mint against stakes, they'll let you get their tokens against PULSEX here, which will be voted in the DAO the same way that the incentivized farms are picked and voted into the system. So you can provide liquidity. I have a liquidity providing calculator on howtopulse.com for you guys if you're that gallsy. So you guys can hop right. Wow. I am really getting tired of Windows. I'm about to go Ubuntu all the way around. No, I'm not. I need the compatibility. Yeah, so we've got the pools that will be available. So when new tokens want to bring, they'll have to bring it to a vote for the DAO. The DAO, people that hold 10 million plus PULSEX tokens, another utility and reason to hold them is your right to vote, can help vote this in and vet this stuff in, and then you can farm for these without any risk. Just put your PULSEX there and get free tokens. I mean, you should still vet the contract, make sure the tokens are safe. There's always a little bit of risk in crypto, but no impermanent loss risk. With the farms, well, if you're going to farm for incentive tokens, you have to provide liquidity. And with liquidity, there is risk of impermanent loss. Now, I mean, if you're providing liquidity anyway, and the pool is incentivized to farm, there's no harm. There's no good reason not to be in here getting the incentive token on top of it. So since I want to provide Hex and Hex to stabilize, and I want to have Hex and PULSEX for value, I know what I'm going to vote for with my voting share to incentivize. And I know what I'm going to hopefully see LP incentivization happen for. But if it doesn't, oh well. I will have at least participated in the system, had my vote, and done my best. So I'm really, really excited for all the things that are coming. And I'm not going to go clicking on all these because not all of them are functional. They've been busy with GoLand, but the fact that they added limit orders to this tells me that they've got. Richard Hart also on Twitter for the rumor mill is asking to purchase a centralized exchange instead of starting one. So I'm guessing the centralized exchange that was going to host PulseX or Pulse might have backed out. Not sure yet, or they might be getting hinky with the deal. But we're still going to have the bridge active for value to get in and get out. And the fact that he's looking for a central exchange and they've added limit orders tells me they're done with the GoLand validating. They're working on front end stuff and other stuff now. There may be a security audit in process. They might not be ready to launch, but they wouldn't be working on limit orders if they still had important validator code to GoLand to do. And I don't think Richard would be so vocally asking for that if there wasn't some progress. Still, that doesn't mean I'm thinking it's right around the corner, but it gets me hopeful that maybe Christmas. That might be too early. So I'm betting somewhere between Christmas and May. Because, you know, he did say it was coming in May, and he didn't say what year. Anyway, we're all over it, or at least I am. I've gone completely insane. So, yeah, it's coming when it comes. Progress is being made. That makes me happy. So I do some more math, and at some point, you know, if you guys really can't figure out how to build this thing on your own, someone has been talking to me about possibly getting some user interface guys to look at cleaning this up and making it into some sort of app that people can play with, so they the two cells can look at this kind of math. So though that's where like this one I didn't give away because I realized like as much as I look at this, I'm like, well, this is simple, guys. I know other people look at this and go, wait, what? How did you? I can't do that. Wait, what? And really, I did actually make a piece of software here. I did program something, and it might have value. And I love you guys, but I do not get paid to promote anything. I don't get paid by Richard. I don't get paid by anyone. I barely get paid by work. Yeah, I don't get paid to endorse any project I talk about. So I get asked by some people to talk about their project, and then sometimes they withdraw that ask because I don't have favorable opinions of every project out there. I just mind my business because I believe every project, as long as it's not directly a scam, has its right to exist. Um, Reflection tokens, I really do not appreciate. That is generally inherently kind of a scam, so I will diss something for being a reflection token. It's also funny that they seem to inherently have glitches, bugs, and all sorts of other things. So there are other red flags that come up. And then I do make hints to projects if I really think, like, watch out for this. I'm stressing. Um, but there's other ones where, you know what? I might not think it's the best thing. I might not think it's utility. I might think it's a bit of a toy. But someone else might like that toy. Someone else might want to play with it. So I don't talk about it. I come on here because I had a friend, a dear friend to me, named Paul. And I miss Paul. He's been dead for over half a year now. He died depressed, waiting for Pulse and PulseX to launch because he sacked for it. And he was a Richard Hart fanatic and my friend and got me involved in all this. And then he was depressed, so I made him a video about this PulseX Math because I'd been sharing it, and people in the AMA loved it. And I'm like, dude, you don't understand what you bought. You're fine. Life is gonna be good. He died before I got that video out, and I found out an hour after the video was released. And I released my second video, and another friend found out they were dead. I started to think I was cursed, but I continually think of my friend, and I think about how he felt, and this is why I get out there and I fight FUD when I think people are bringing down false fears, scaring people, shaking the foundation of their life and their beliefs and their future, playing games, or trying to sound important. I get out there and I fight it with facts. I don't necessarily know all the things that'll happen. I don't know that, we won't turn right into 1984 with thought police and that all this crypto will be so illegal we can't get to it and we'll have to use CBDCs. I don't know what the future actually holds. But all I can do is prepare the best I can for the future that I want. And that's what I do. And I share this information I'm finding out and learning in the spirit of my friend. So I share it for free, but at some point, I put a lot of work into this. Yeah, I am saving a couple of things because it would be nice to make some money for bringing value to the community. But as for now, I do it because I like to. I do it because I want to. And I do it because I have so many people that actually seem to tune in. Even when I put out a crappy video, nobody wanted to see Bert the Turtle, but I still got 30 views. It was still a classroom full of people. And that video actually had some of the longest engagement time because the people that don't watch for long didn't even bother watching at all. So all of a sudden, the amount of time that video was being watched by the less people, I actually felt like that was higher quality. It makes me want to put more comical titles and comical pictures that have nothing to do with this onto my content. Almost out of spite. Like, if you're not willing to take a joke, you don't deserve to get the alpha. As that's who I am. I crack jokes and I drop alpha. So, thank you for tuning in, guys. Hopefully, I've gone over enough of a review of the functionality of PULSEX, why I like it, why it's easy to calculate, because I could not build that calculator price predictor model with the buy and burn with a liquidity model like Uniswap V3. The buy and burn would be so unpredictable because it could only be able to buy up the tokens that were allowed in the ranges. Oof. So, I mean, it still function. It's just, I gotta say, there's a fluidity of perfection to the math where you can never buy all the tokens out of it, one side or the other. You can never get all the dollars out or all the tokens of value, the asset or the value. There's always some in that pair stretching on to infinity, and that's what makes that math pretty cool. So that really should hopefully sum it up for you guys. I don't think I really have much more I can drop on PULSEX. If I missed anything, hit it in the comments and maybe I'll throw it in a later date. But setting limit orders, I didn't show you how to set limit orders. So I guess what I should do is over here to set a limit order. I have, this much pulse. So let's say 10 pulse. Now I want to set it to USDC. That's worth 7 cents a USDC. Bollocks to that. I want $1 a pulse. I'm not going to sell that until we're... What the heck? Can I not change this? Oh, that's what I have to change. There we go. Sell pulse at $10 a pulse. So that would be 100 USDC. All right. So at the price point for pulse down here at the bottom, that's $10, 10.00 cents. All right. And maybe I even want to make that 100 pulse tokens. Sorry, not at right now's price. You got to be careful. Look at that. So 100 tokens at $100, or sorry, $10 a pulse token. It's $1,000. Maybe I need it for the dentist. Maybe I even think that'll happen in the next 6 months. And place order, confirm, go into my wallet, and confirm. Close. And it should hopefully, there we go, pop up right there. I now have 2 limit orders in. When 10 pulse equals 1 hex, it'll execute. And when 100 pulse equals 1000 USDC, it'll execute. And as you can see, this one goes to 2023. This one ends in 2 weeks. That easy to set limit orders. Set it and forget it. Provide liquidity if you want, and farm it if you want. Exchange. And then we have all the info and analytics that you can go and check, just like Uniswap. The amount of liquidity locked in the pairs, the price of these pairs. I think it's wonderful. I really can't wait for it to get going. So thanks for tuning in, guys. I think I have talked for probably over an hour on my PULSEX update and a little bit of rant about Uniswap V3 math and everything else. I hope you guys have enjoyed my perspective. And thanks for staying all the way to the end. You, as always, get a gold star. And, yeah, I should start doing more shout-out segments. Oh, and I forgot to do my favorite segment. If you're still here to the end and you've still got the volume turned up, yo, Alexa, play Mexican radio. Have a great night, folks, and stay frosty.